So how's everyone tonight? Off to a good start? Alright. Can you hear me over there, yeah? Can you hear me okay? Okay. So this is the fourth session of our our Four Noble Truths seminar. I learned a lot. And we're going to look at the fourth Noble Truth. This is the fourth session, which is the truth of the path, Magga. How we sort of fulfill, how we walk the talk, so to speak. The first, a couple of New Year's haikus from some old Japanese haiku masters. One of them from Shiki simply said, New Year's Day, neither good nor bad, just other people. Which pretty much is, a good point of view. And that's whatever you make of it. And the other haiku by Isa was, planting my walking stick in the dirt on the first sun of the year. And I kind of consider that a haiku of the fourth noble truth, which is the truth of the path. Just gotta, whatever you're going through, just put your stick in the dirt and move on. Walk it. Get on the path. So that's kind of our haiku for first sun of the year, or moon. But we're going to put our sticks in the path and see where it takes us. As a real short review, Four Noble Truths. Of course, we start with the acceptance that there's a lot of pain, a lot of difficulty in life, and when we relate to it through like craving and personal desire and self-centeredness, it results in the experience of suffering. And there's pain, and then there's a relationship which has to do with, what's good for me or bad for me, what I think I want and what I think I don't want, in order to make me feel more real, and to push away what I think is threatening that sense of self. And that's the second noble truth, which is like where the suffering comes from. It's craving, but not craving for desire so much. I mean, for pleasure. It's not craving for fame and fortune, right? It's craving for the self that I think fame and fortune and pleasure is going to support. So it's based on illusion or ignorance. Ignorance on the nature of the self, which, the nature of the self is insubstantial, impermanent, and always changing. But we get confused and we think that if there's something solid, then I need to support it. And I support it through all the things that I crave and I desire, thinking that will make me, strong. That's the second noble truth. As we see from the start, these are not like tenets of belief. These are not things you say, okay, yes, I believe what the Buddha said, and that makes me a good Buddhist. No, it's like you can disagree, right? And if you are doing better without dealing with suffering and trying to work through it, if you've been able to make a shortcut somehow, then please share it with the rest of us. I'd like to know, is there like a 2.5 truth? So like a one we missed, right? Honestly, it's a work in progress. And the third one is obviously like if we can, it's what we talked about last week, which is the amazing news that it's not just a given. You don't have to be a slave to your, your false beliefs that these things will make me happy. And you're not a slave to your cravings. You're not a slave to all your passions. It's not a given. You have a lot of conditioning that leads you to believe that this will make you permanently happy. It will make you happy. It will. All the things that we're, aspiring for and grasping and desiring will make you happy. But it's generally really short term. Really short term. And then you're left feeling like I need even more. That's the root of addiction. The drugs do make you happy, but then afterwards you feel even worse. And then you don't know any other way, so you think you have to get more of the same thing. Right? I mean, we're all addicts. That's like the second noble truth. It's like we're just, addicted to the cravings we think will make us happy. All right. So the third noble truth is saying, well, you know what? There's an actual cure to your addiction. You can overcome the addiction. Right? And then we're left at the end of last week thinking, okay, great. How? How do I do it? And that's what the fourth noble truth is. It's the how. Okay, it's the how. And there are 8 ways. And they're not distinct ways. They're not separate ways. They're actually all interconnected. And based pretty much on 2 main, parts of the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path basically is just a way of life. How to live well. Okay, that's like what we could call the fourth noble truth. Okay, the art of living well. Okay, and avoiding suffering. Cultivating good and avoiding suffering. Okay, this is the practical part of it. So, it's a prescription for right living, and we call the Eightfold Path, they say it's right this, right that, right this, right that. Right understanding and right intention. That's the wisdom part. It's divided into 3 main parts. Right, and right we talked about over a few weeks saying, well, appropriate. But there's something even better than appropriate. Because appropriate sounds sort of like you're learning manners. And it's not necessarily like etiquette. It's more what the Buddha said is wholesome versus unwholesome, which is also an inaccurate translation, but it's the best we can do. Wholesome. What do we mean by that? It's pretty simple, actually, versus unwholesome. Let's start with what is unwholesome. Unwholesome is simply, thought, speech, or actions that cause harm to yourself or others. So we have to make it simple so that we can remember it. If we make it too complicated, it'll be hard to remember. And if it's hard to remember, then it's hard to live by. So basically, keep it simple. Unwholesome means it causes harm to you, your state of mind, right? Or to others through your speech and actions. Right? Your state of mind meaning your thoughts, and then it comes out from in to out, meaning through speech and action. Unwholesome, does that cause harm? Like you notice within you and this is coming to right understanding. Do you notice that, what you're engaged in is based on the 3 poisons? What were they? Greed, meaning craving and desire and selfish need. Anger, meaning aversion or judgment or, rejection. Or delusion, meaning like, me, I believe in me so much. Like you have this really strong sense of self. Meaning is it selfish? Right? Self-centered, self-cherishing. So, right understanding is knowing it's not unwholesome, meaning it's not based on, attachment, aversion, and delusion in Buddhist talk, right? Wholesome, well then is saying, well, it helps. Is this helpful, beneficial? Does it promote happiness and reduce suffering? Wholesome in myself and in others. That's what wholesome is. Why do we say whole? Because it's honoring the wholeness of who you and I are, right? The wholeness. It's not trying to separate you. The wholeness, and what do we mean by the real wholeness here? When we say wholesome, we got to understand the real wholeness. In the Buddhist thought, it means emptiness. What does that mean? Interdependence. The true wholesomeness means that we're not separate. When you break down, you separate yourself from others, that's unwholesome. Because then it starts to aspire for my own success at the expense of others. I don't really think of it in that way, but I still see myself as a separate individual. Wholesome meanings, do you see the wholeness of your choices and of yourself? Meaning that wholeness includes all others, right? So that's what the Buddha means by wholesome. Is this thought, speech, and action wholesome or unwholesome? Meaning, does it honor and recognize the unity, or does it engage in separation? That's wholesome versus unwholesome. Are we honoring the unity? Are we creating harmony based on that unity and based on a sense of self that is not separate, non-dual, right? Or is it me and the rest of the world, right? So, wholesome or unwholesome. That's how we try to understand it. In Buddhist terminology, we mean emptiness, recognizing emptiness. Okay. Emptiness, again, just means empty of separate self, full of the wholesomeness, the wholeness of, interrelationships. This is coming, why what's called right understanding, the wisdom part of the path, the Eightfold Path, which really summarizes, does an overview of all the Buddhist teachings, really is based on this kind of foundation called right understanding, or right thought. And it's sort of our frame, our perspective. So instead of being like beliefs that you need to have, it's a point of view. What is your point of view? Oh yeah, I see the unity. I look around, and in the face of separation and disunity, I see unity. Okay? That's right understanding. Then instead of seeing everybody as like these separate interests, we're all united in our interest. The main interest is to end suffering and to realize the true nature of your mind, your enlightened mind. Right? We all actually want that under it, and we call it by different names. But do you see, do you understand that when you look around and you see everybody so different from you? Right? What is your understanding? So appropriate, right, or wholesome understanding sees the wholeness, sees the bigness. What's called big mind in Zen, meaning the big picture. What is the big picture of your path? And it comes down to the specific actions. Right? Does this one little action, is it embracing the unity? Right? Even though it's just like this small little action, like a cleaning of dishes or going shopping for your children or for yourself, right? Is that action in itself wholesome? Okay? And anything you do can be an awakened activity, right? Awakening to the wholesomeness, connectedness of that singular, that particular. Right? Just in the way that you are the sum of, all the connections that brought you here. So, we start with right understanding and right intention, which is the wisdom part of the path. The meditation part of the path, of the Eightfold Path, is effort, concentration, mindfulness. And then the moral or behavioral part is speech, action, livelihood. I'll go over those real briefly, just to kind of see them, how they work together. But I do want to say that there's a sort of, when we talk about the Eightfold Path, there's a kind of inherent or internal paradox in it. And the internal paradox in it is, how can we talk about a path of getting somewhere when so much of meditation is aimed at being here? Right? So then how can we be on a path when the path is to realize you're present? So isn't that kind of odd? It should feel a little odd when you start to think about it. And that means we're thinking too much about it. what do I mean? It means that, yeah, you're on a path, okay, but you're on a path to bring you here. And sometimes you make a huge detour in order to realize who and what you are right now, right? And sometimes you have to go long distances to come back and appreciate home. And that home is your own mind, including your own personality and your own history and your own, idiosyncrasies, all the differences that you are. Sometimes you have to go far away, right? So yeah, it's a long path, and in the end, you all come home, wherever that home is, right? But the home is the nature of your own mind. I mean, so it's a path leading you here, but sometimes it takes a while to get here. So yeah, we hold that. It's a path to realize who and what I already am. Okay. But why don't I realize it now already? Like if I'm already here and it's my own mind the way it is now, then what do I need this really long path of arduous practice for? If it's the true nature of my mind, someone asked once in a retreat, if it's the way we really are, then why is it so hard to realize? Sometimes there's no why. There's just because. It's hard, okay? Right? We're confused. We have not grown up in enlightened sanghas, right? We haven't been brought up and raised within enlightened communities that are honoring the nature of enlightened mind and recognizing the Buddhas all around them, right? But basically we've been told, it's you against the rest of your class. So you better be on top, right? I mean, that's what we're told. And we all buy into it, and we say, yeah, I gotta succeed. And my own success is usually at the expense of others. Because not everyone can be number one, because then there's no number one, right? So that's how we're raised. Right? And then we're told in the right understanding that everybody's number one. But a different number one. So how do we deal with that? Okay. You're not responsible for other people's minds. You're responsible for your own mind. Right? You have one number one to worry about. That's your own mind. Where are you? Okay. Where are you? That's you don't have to ask where anyone else is. You have to ask where one person is. Okay. And you know who that is. Our past karma, some people have harder times, some people have easier times. Some people are more naturally happy. Some people are more naturally, distressed. Okay. That simply is part of our path. That's our own personal path, right? That's our own personal path. There are many dharmas, right? There are many paths that lead to truth and awakening. Follow yours, right? That's the walking stick. On this new sun, on the first sun of the day, plant your stick in the ground. Right understanding then, which really gives us this point of view of saying, okay, well, all right, I want to understand. And this is not something that we just understand and then we can practice. It's something that we aspire and we train and we learn and we consider. Consider this. These are things that we're constantly considering again and again. It's not like, yeah, I got it. Because if you got it, then that's a very good intellectual understanding. But we want it from the heart. Right understanding is sort of the right feeling you have. It's the right point of view, the appropriate or wholesome. It's the wholesome way of looking at life. Okay? Do you have a wholesome, helpful, unharmful way of looking around at life and understanding what you're doing? That's right understanding. And that's what we don't have an answer for, but we have a question for. Consider this. Consider, do you look around and do you understand your life and the world in terms of impermanence? Do you see the change? Do you see the change everywhere you are? Okay? Do you see the difficulty, the pain and the suffering everywhere you are? And do you see the insubstantiability, the non-self? Okay, the anatta. Do you see non-self, or do you see like yourself as always getting frustrated? Or do you see self and other people's selves as lost in often delusion? Right? So do you see the three types, the three marks of existence? That's part of right understanding in Anicca, Anatta, Dukkha. Do you see that? Okay, is that part of your frame of understanding when you look around? Right understanding also involves understanding karma. What is karma? Simply, you're responsible for your mind. That's all. All right? You're not responsible for anyone else's mind, and nobody else is responsible for your mind. You are the result of your speech, thought, and actions. That's karma. Do you understand that? So that's something to consider. That's part of right understanding. Are we taking full responsibility for who and what we are right now? Right? Or are we blaming the conditions around us? It is so easy to blame and so unhelpful. Right understanding. Okay. 3 marks of existence, anicca, anatta, dukkha, impermanence, non-self, and difficulty, understanding karma, looking at life and considering again wholesome or unwholesome. Is it helpful or is it harmful? Okay. That's what right understanding is. And finally, the most basic definition of right understanding is understanding the Four Noble Truths. That, dukkha, okay, I consider it often. I often consider it. I consider where the suffering is coming from. I consider, again and again, ask the question, how can I end it? And then, what do I do about it? Am I considering that often in my life? All those, that's right understanding. Okay? And that leads then quite naturally to open up the rest of the path. But without that, we could be involved in speech. Okay? For instance, let's take speech. Right speech, appropriate, wholesome speech. But if I'm not considering what is wholesome and what is unwholesome, if I'm not considering impermanence and non-self and suffering, if I'm not considering that, then speech will just be kind of hit and miss. Hit and miss. Okay? So right understanding is really the the axis that these are turning on. We gotta ground ourselves in that quite strongly. And it's not something that you repeat in order to indoctrinate yourself. These are questions that you ask. Fixed or impermanent? I wonder. Let me look. This is how meditation is deeply connected to right understanding. Because in our meditation practice, we take the time to consider. Consider not as a thought, but to observe. We want to observe the nature of reality. Is it fixed or is it transient? Is my sense of self solid or is it flowing and changing? Where does suffering and my discontent come from? In meditation, we see very clearly the connection and the cause and effect relationship, right, between some of my beliefs and the pain it causes me. And that's also considering karma, right? So meditation is a laboratory for cultivating a perspective that is called, wholesome or right understanding. And again, these are not thoughts that we're actively thinking, but observations we're making. We're simply observing, what is the nature of self? Let me look. What is the nature of my experience? Let me look. I'm not interested in answers, it's the question. Consider this, that right understanding is offering us. The second part of the wisdom path is right intention. Right intention. Okay? Why are you doing what you're doing? Not just consider it, like let me look. Okay, what is happening now? That's right understanding. I just observe. Now, right intention, the wisdom part that is also like basic to putting your stick in and starting walking is, why am I on this path anyway? Right intention is, again, it's not the answer, it's the question. Right? The Dharma is about asking questions that are unsettling some of the beliefs that you're holding on to that are making you comfortable and separate. Okay? So it's really about asking the real questions that are called beginner's mind. Let me start at the beginning again. Okay, who am I? What am I? What's happening now? And why am I doing what I'm doing? Why? Okay, why? Is it just to my benefit? Right? Is it just helping me? Well, how long will that really just help me? Because usually if it's just for myself, I end up getting hurt in the end. Okay? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Right intention, again, it's not necessarily an answer. It's an observation of that question. So, how do we cultivate right intention? Okay? If right understanding comes from meditation of looking deeply at your experience moment by moment with these questions, what is the nature of myself? What is the nature of my experience? And you just get into that place of, look, listen, consider, right? Observe. Okay? That's right understanding where it comes from. Now, right intention, where does it come from? Right? Again, this is not a theoretical instructions. The Eightfold Path is exactly to plant your stick in and use it well. Okay? Use that walking stick. Right intention is pausing frequently and simply asking the question. When I feel myself starting to run on automatic, which we often do, you're just in the habit of, okay, yeah, I got to do this. This is important. Pause. Why? Maybe it is important, right? But it'll be even more important if you can pause and then answer in the affirmative. Yeah, I'm doing this because this is really going to be helpful, right? So take certain times. When are these times that are good to pause and ask a question? Well, one of them is when you first open your eyes in the morning. That's a good opportunity to say, why get out of bed? Like, why? And maybe wait until you have an answer, or you don't have an answer. So that's one opportunity. And then several times during the day, it's a good idea to pause. Pause to observe, but pause also just to ask the question, why am I going to be running to this right now? Like, why? Okay? And what does it mean, right intention? Again, coming from right understanding, wholesome, unwholesome. What was wholesome? Remember, the motivations, the background is based on what's called the four Brahma Viharas. What are they? Compassion, loving kindness, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. If that is the background state of mind of what I'm going to do, then it's probably going to be wholesome. And if it's based on, the three poisons of being, aversion, attachment, or delusion, right, that we've gone over, then it's probably going to be unwholesome. So when you ask, why am I going to do what I'm going to do, and you just pause and you take a little look, a little check, based on wholesome or unwholesome, based on, metta karuna, or based on greed and aversion. You'll know. Okay? You'll know. You just look in and you'll know. Okay? And then you proceed. So how do we
If you don't know?
If you don't know?
No,
Then
because
you
I do ask this question though sometimes. And sometimes even if it's obvious like cognitively that the thing is going to be good, I'm looking for some kind of this connection of I know, and I don't always feel it.
Yeah. We're not talking that you always have to have this certainty, because that also is fake most of the time, right? That's like not really knowing, but wanting to think I know so much that, I cover up any doubt. Doubt is, also a motivating factor, right? Doubt is a motivating factor. What you are doubting is, your own clarity. You're not doubting that your motivation, can be based on compassion. Okay? So, the doubt can be motivating too, right? The doubt allows you to keep looking Because if you have a strong answer, like, yeah, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. What's the problem with that? You stop observing. Okay? Confidence leads to a fall. Right? For sure. So doubt is actually a positive value here. It all comes back to our meditation practice, I have to tell you. It all comes back to that. And meditation not as like a half-hour session. Meditation as those momentary pauses where you observe your inner state. Frequently. Okay? Better than a half an hour in the morning and then a mindless day is 30 moments throughout your day. Okay? Every half hour. Pausing and saying, okay. Here I am. Okay? Here I am. Right? Just that pause to recenter, to reorient yourself. To let go of needing to come to answers. Let go of the need for surety and certainty, but opening up to the uncertainty. Because uncertainty is pretty special. Because the real uncertainty is being uncertain about who you are. And that's a good thing, okay? If you can embrace that uncertainty, right, then you're open to the change. But if we need to be real certain, the only way we can be really certain about who we are and what we're doing is by trying to avoid change around us. Because change is always going to threaten our certainty. So if you can allow yourself some uncertainty, then you will be more open to the changes happening. And that's simply reality. Right intention. Pause frequently, if I want to sum it up. Pause frequently. Single word. Why? Okay. The answer is not very important. The question is essential. So that's called Pana, the wisdom part of the path, right? Because it really does inform the rest with asking, is it wholesome or unwholesome? And really understand wholesomeness as embracing the diversity and the wholeness and the harmony of the world around us. And unwholesome as a reinforcing the separation, between myself and others. Right? Duality, non-duality. In another way of saying it. The rest of the path, which is the meditation and action part, okay, or what's called samadhi, which is the meditation part, meaning effort, which also has to do with a lot of like wholesome or unwholesomeness in your mind, and concentration, which has to do with being able to discipline your mind, okay? And remember that our meditation practice is not just let go, be peaceful, relax. It actually is a mind discipline. It's a mind training. And that's part of the path that we have to remember. It's not just a stroll in the park. It's mindful awareness, right, while strolling in the park. Okay? That doesn't mean you have to be so harsh and not enjoy anything. But your enjoyment is enhanced and increased when you're actually more present and not just going for a stroll in the park and half my mind is thinking about, okay, when I get back to work, right? Maybe you designate a time to think about work while you're strolling in the park, that's fine. But if you're trying to be present, be aware of when you're not. That's the mind training. Okay, and that's right concentration. Is this what you should be thinking about now? Okay? Is this where your mind should be right now? Or not? Okay? Right concentration, meaning wholesome. Right mindfulness. Being able to come back again and again. And then we have speech, thought, and livelihood. Okay? Speech, action, livelihood. And speech is basically understood as, is it, the Buddha talked about 3 types of not wholesome speech. Is it deceitful? Does it create, hatred towards others, slanderous? And is it harsh and, rude and impolite? So even if it's not making, other people hate, is it like, you just like harsh and rude and impolite? So there's 3 types of unwholesome speech. And wholesome speech, he said, was, friendly and kind and nice. That's one thing, one part of it. At the right time and place. That was the second thing. You can be friendly, kind, and nice, but it's the wrong time and wrong place. Okay, so then it's not wholesome, because they just resent it, actually. And if it's neither of those two, noble silence, he said. Which is always a great third choice. That's wholesome speech, okay? And it comes again from considering right understanding. What's my framework of what wholesome and unwholesome is? And how do I understand that point of view, right? Am I embracing the unity? Or am I creating division? Finally, there's speech, there's action, which is simply defined as the keeping the 5 precepts if you're a lay person. And those 5 precepts being, not taking life or harming life, and not taking what's not yours, or not stealing, not lying, not using intoxicants, and not having harmful sexuality. So, those are the 5 precepts, which is basically the most basic way of doing right action. You follow those pretty well, and, your level of causing harm is very diminished, right? Right livelihood means also like work and profession, being engaged in professions that are not explicitly harmful, okay? Like, manufacturing, addictive and selling drugs, being a drug pusher, or a weapons dealer, or a slave, like whatever, seller, all these old professions or new ones that are pretty harmful. But for us, for most of us, I assume, are not involved in those harmful professions, then it has to do with what kind of livelihood, what are we doing with our time at work? Like, is work work and practice practice? Or is work practice and practice practice? Okay? How do I make my work my practice? Even if I don't like it. How can I do that? That's otherwise what are you going to do? Just like write it off and wait till one day you get a better job? I mean, you may not be alive then. Okay? So here's your opportunity to bring some metta, kindness, some compassion, some equanimity, and sympathetic joy, right? In a workplace, you may not necessarily, your personality may not like. But there are people there who need you while you're there. Or at least they need your compassion and kindness. Right? So how can I make that my practice? The other part of right livelihood is, what do I do with my earnings? Right? We work because we need money. And we need money because we need to pay for things. That's something to consider. How do I use it, in a wholesome way? How do I relate to owning things? Because if you're a lay person, then you own things. Well, if you're a monk, you own things too, but you don't really own things. You do have a bowl. But if you're a lay person, you have a lot more than a bowl. How do we relate to our possessions in a way that is ours, but is serving our path? A path that even our possessions become part of our practice. How can I relate? That's part of right livelihood, is understanding the things I own, okay, as part of my, the stick in the ground I'm walking on this first sun of the day. Right? It's just something to consider again. Is it mine? Right? My precious, as Golem would say? Or is it like, everyone's and I'm taking care of it right now? Right? I'm taking care of it now.
Borrowed.
What's that?
Borrowed.
It's borrowed, yeah. And I'll have to give it back,
Even the bowl.
And in the end, it's all going to go back. I mean, what are you going to take with you? Right?
Daniel, what did you mean practicing in the workplace and people need you there
Hmm.
For what?
Well, part of the right understanding from the beginning, right, and this is where I really emphasize strongly, right understanding, the point of view, the framework that we look at life with. And part of right understanding is considering again and again how the Four Noble Truths are a pretty good description of my experience. And the first one being that there's a lot of suffering in this world. Like, there's a lot of joy and happiness too. But undeniably, I don't need to practice with the joy and happiness so much. What I need to practice, the effort of my practice is usually to relieving suffering. And when I recognize that as a universal truth, then it's not just my truth, but it's also the people who are not involved in practice or not studying Buddhism, like the people at work. So the people at work who are suffering also need whatever compassion they can get. You know, or kindness, or sympathetic joy. Hey, you got promotion? Good for you. And I'm not faking it. I'm telling myself I'm not faking it. No, but you know what I mean? That's what I mean, is that it's not just Buddhists that need compassion. It's everybody.
I think also, Daniel, that if we do our job, אני אדבר בעברית מנוחות, I'm sorry. אם אנחנו עושים את העבודה שלנו במוסריות וברצינות, אז ועושים אותה כמו שצריך, וזה יכול לעורר אצל אנשים שבוטחים בנו, שככה אמון מסוים, זה לא פחות ממטה, וכאילו פשוט להביא איזה אנרגיות של יושר והגינות, וגם כאילו זה כביכול לא בודהיסטי, בגרשיים כמובן, כן, כי זה כל כך כן, אבל אני אומר, זה דברים מאוד פשוטים שיש להם המון ערך גם.
Yeah. Do something for the sake of the thing itself, not because you're like, it's for the object too, right? I mean, especially in Zen, there's a lot of talk about honor and respect for things, right? For things. And the thing can be the work, even though it's not related to, I mean, it may be related to other people, but it's usually just, you know, there's work and the person who's in the office next to you is not going to benefit from your work directly. But you're doing it, and you're doing it as your mindful, you know, exercise. Right? Yeah, for sure. Suzuki Roshi said that, you know, do meditation for the sake of meditation. Right? And so that kind of attitude, usually we always have an ulterior motive to our actions. Like, I'm doing this because it's going to lead to this, and then it's going to lead to that. And when I focus practice on the present moment, then I can be doing work, and yeah, I know I'm going to get paid for it, and maybe I'll even get credit for it and get advancement. There can be all that. But while you're doing it, that can be suspended, and it can be work for the sake of work. Like zazen for the meditation for the sake of meditation. Right? So that same kind of approach of doing something for the sake of itself, okay, is honoring the moment. Not necessarily the work, because the work may be, but the moment that you're living. Right? It's your life. Okay, it's your life. Yeah, it happens to be invested in this stuff that you're doing. But forget the stuff, it's actually your life. Yeah. So live your life for its own sake. Yeah. Definitely. And then the quality of what you're doing is different. Does this mean it's like we have a nice roadmap, okay? And we have these ways that seem, wow, there's so much. How am I going to do it? How? Well, with kindness. Kindness for whom? I want to read a short quote that I want to finish with from Jack Kornfield, actually. He said, "If you can sit quietly after difficult news, if in financial downturns you remain perfectly calm, if you can see your neighbors travel to fantastic places without a twinge of jealousy, if you can happily eat whatever is put on your plate and fall asleep after a day of running around without a drink or a pill, if you can always find contentment just where you are, you're probably a dog. Yeah. So for the rest of us, who don't have that level of enlightenment, the dog Buddha nature, right? That's why Joshi said, does the dog have Buddha nature? No. Because it seems like it does until you try being one. But for the rest of us, okay, we just have to, keep walking, right? Keep walking. New sun, new day, okay, new opportunity, right? And a brand new practice. The good news and the bad news are the same thing. That you can't rely on anything that came before you, right? You actually can't rely on yesterday. You may have done well. Well, you're going to have to start over. And that good news, though, is that no matter what mistakes and errors you made yesterday, also are past. And that's the new sun of the stick that you're planting in. So whichever way it is, whatever you're leaving behind, you're leaving behind. But there's a lot of help you have, and a lot of guidance to help us. The map is clear, but the way is long. So we better start, right? You may only have one day. You may have the rest of your life, which may be the same thing. So I wish us really this year, this day, and this moment, and from however much time we have, okay, that we walk the path well and support each other as we go. So before we finish with a few seconds silence, does anyone have a question or comment you'd like to make? You're the first one this year.
When you talked about right speech, and sometimes there's times where a kind word is like not at the right time, can you give an example of that?
Yeah. Like for instance, if you're in a group of people and you really and someone did well with something and you want to praise them, but it actually makes the other people feel like jealous or feel like kind of like, oh, well, that means I didn't do well. Or if they feel criticism from your praise, then perhaps the time was when they weren't there, right? I mean, that's a simple example that teachers face all the time, and I see them make that mistake all the time. So
Being aware of others.
Being aware of others and the timing. And is the person able to hear what you want to say, or are they just, And if you praise someone too much, then they stop hearing it, right? Or right speech, maybe constructive criticism. And that's very important to get the timing right. Can they hear what I want to say, or is it just because I need to say it? Right? And again, it comes back to wholesome, unwholesome. Wholesome meaning, am I seeing the unity of this person and everything? Remember, unity doesn't just mean that we're connected. Unity and the wholesomeness, the wholeness of that person means, and where are they right now? Like, what's their state of mind? And are they able to receive this? Or are they just too tired? So, yeah, that's like, is it wholesome or unwholesome? That's the right speech. Yeah.
I just wanted to share. Sorry, I'm back here. But I just wanted to share We were with my nephew, family gathering, and we got presents. And one of them, 5-year-old, got a present. Oh, she got a present, sorry. And she was upset. She didn't like the present. And somebody went down and bought the present. She didn't like it. And it was such a great teaching how responsibility is like on us, because nobody did anything to her. There was nothing wrong. Like the situation was just what it was. And I really saw myself. I had that experience as a kid a lot, and it was such a great teaching for, yeah, she's more than 5. I think she's 6 now, but she's 6. It's a bit unfair maybe, but still, the responsibility was still there. Nobody else could have done or can do anything for her at that moment. Well, you can give drugs and types of drugs for that moment, but still, yeah, it was a very good. I wanted to share that.
She may actually return to that moment. Like she may remember it in the future and say, because maybe you do. I definitely do. I remember very clearly being 4 and getting a present that I hated. And I still think about that. No, honestly, it became, I still remember. Hanukkah present, toy phone, Fisher Price toy phone. And I started crying, saying, this is for babies. And I'm crying saying this is for babies, right? And that has remained with me to today, but not as a regret, but as hey, now it's important for you to think about how Aunt Clara felt hearing this, right? I'm okay, so I better think, so I can't do anything for her, she's dead. But I can't change that situation. But it has remained for me a formative teaching from my childhood, and for your cousin, who knows, right? So all the mistakes become sort of teachers, along the way. And that's something of the path is, all of this is my path. The whole, and it started before you knew Buddhism, and before you were born, but as far as you can remember, you've been walking the path. And the more conscious you make a path, the more it becomes path.
So, in order to do wholesome actions and thoughts, so I really connect to what you said about the 4 Brahma-Vihara, but they don't simply come so natural to me. So I really have to work on it. Sometimes, now I have to be empathic. It's more technical or something like that. What's the best ways do you recommend to develop these? Qualities? What's the best ways to just
make it technical, right? Basically, you are reconditioning your mind so that your immediate response is kind rather than judgmental. But we're conditioned so that our immediate response is usually self-protecting and selfish. So basically, it's just taking it's mind training, right? You're reconditioning, you're relearning, and you're unlearning selfishness, and you're relearning or reconditioning, generosity. So, it's technical for a long while, and then we slip back, but then you find yourself, it starts to become spontaneous. Just in the same way, being mindful in the beginning, meditation training is technical, all right? It's remembering, I'm gone, come back. Gone, come back. And then you start to naturally come back without having to say, come back, right? But it's training. Yep. There's nothing wrong with technical if the technical is towards kindness, right? So be it. Mm-hmm.